Welcome back to Aspiring Creator, where we talk about all the behind the scenes stuff of running a content creator channel, businessy type thing. This week's been a busy one. It has hit like busy season of the year, which seems to be getting earlier and earlier every year. Normally it's, was it Techtober, people call it, or Techtember? And it's now like end of July and it's already started hitting. So there's a fair bit to talk about, but we're just going to crack on. I've written a list of things down that have happened or thoughts or ideas since the last time we talked. The last show, go listen/watch that one. We had Laurie on from Tech Notice. It was really interesting just to obviously get like another opinion and see what they're seeing on their channel and their kind of thoughts on strategy and everything as well. So most recently, we've had Samsung Unpacked. So this was last week. Samsung Unpacked was hosted in London this year. So usually Samsung fly out a careful, hand-picked, select few that get to like go and do like San Francisco, whatever it is. But this year, obviously being in London, they could get a lot more people along to the event. So it was really cool. I got to see a lot more like British, UK creators down there, met some really cool people. And funnily enough, so there was Samsung Unpacked itself, which was like the venue was just not really that great. So my view of Samsung Unpacked was a pillar. Basically, I was sat behind a pillar for the entire show, and I had to stare up and look at a massive screen that was just above me, which I guess is just maybe like British, British houses and buildings for you. But maybe an event like the O2 Arena or somewhere a bit more open, planned, and wide and big space would have been more useful. But anyway, it was a fun event. The fun continued into the evening where there was like they have the Samsung Unpacked party, but it was very, very quiet this year. It still had a few people around, but I found that because the majority of the world's media was flown over from various different countries. The US flew over a ton of creators. Most of them just went off sightseeing, so they didn't actually come to the evening event. They just went off sightseeing, which is great for content as well because they get to capture some cool things, London sightseeing with their new phones and everything. And this year, like again, this is like the way that it works. So we as creators and as media, I guess, went to Samsung Unpacked. So we go and like watch the live event. Directly after the live events, they basically take us off to one side, took us back to the hotel, and then gave us devices which were already like bagged up in little bags for us. So pretty much, I think most or everyone in our group got like a Fold 8 and a Fold 8 Ultra because the Fold 8 was the more interesting new shape this year, and the Fold 8 Ultra is obviously like the flagship. So I wanted us to concentrate on those. They didn't have any watches for us at the time. The watches turned up later. In fact, we're still waiting for the Watch Ultra 2 at the moment. Got the Watch 9 already, but no flips this year. And again, it felt like they'd kind of forgotten about the flips this year. But that's generally how it works. And then they took us on. So that was kind of it. And then we had the evening event. And then the next day we did, there was a boat trip and such a fantastic, we got to see the Come Alive show, which was like the Greatest Showman kind of musical show with all the songs and stuff. It was super, super cool with loads of like acrobatics. Really want to take my daughter around there because she would absolutely love that. We get to wear these cool little media badges things, which is awesome. Nice little collection of those now. So Samsung Unpacked, really good one this year. Looking forward to more in the future as well. What else we got to talk about? This is a funny one I noted down because we haven't talked about it for a while, but the whole like buying of views is a thing. Funnily enough, I saw what was it? Someone posting. I can't remember what it was. No, it's gone. But this came across my feed because we've been doing a lot of LG videos recently for like LG monitor reviews and comparisons and those kind of things. And Unbox Therapy posted an LG video that was just like, hey, here are all the 3 new monitors or whatever it was. And there's a guy in the comments section that every few hours or every few days, he's like commenting what the video is doing in terms of views. And it just kind of shows the rife problem, I guess, with people buying or botting views on YouTube. So this was at the time, I don't know what the video is at the moment, but I just wrote down a few numbers and went, oh, that's obviously where it happened. 5 days ago, 14,000 views. 5 days ago, 22,000 views. 4 days ago, 46,000 views. So, it's just, slowly ticking along. 2 days ago, 109,000 views. 2 days ago, 364,000 views. 1 day ago, 367,000 views. And then 15 hours ago, 668,000 views. So we've gone from day four or between day 2 and 4 of it being posted, it had like 46 to 100,000 views, which for I don't know how many million subscribers he's got is not that great, but pretty average with YouTube performance at the moment. And then suddenly, when is that? So 4, and then so we've gone from like 100,000 views to like a day or 2 later suddenly having 700,000 views and like not many more comments. And I just found it funny that this guy was commenting regularly saying like, oh, now you can see when he's bought views. And so like it's just all over the place. And I find it funny a lot because Unbox Therapy, he is used in so many brand press emails. They obviously go to him, pay him a load of money to make a video, which is fine. That's how YouTube and marketing and stuff works. But then those same brands then come to me and say, hey, you should make a video about our product for free because look, Unbox Therapy, big, successful, famous YouTuber did one for us and said it was a good product, surprisingly, because sponsored. But it's just one of these frustrating things that we get it a lot of the time with big creators like Marquez, MKBHD, Unbox Therapy. Look, they talked about us, so you should talk about us now. By also, we can't pay you for it. It's always how it goes down. One thing I wrote on my list as well was like preloading your bias, because every YouTuber, every content creator has a bias of some form. Even if I'm sat here very aware that I have a bias, and then I'm trying to then counter and be as balanced as possible, but there's still a bias. And this was like how I was trying to think about things going into what we know is coming up. We know the iPhone launch is going to happen. We know there's probably going to be an iPhone Fold, we think. So with the Samsung Fold that's just come out, do I want to go into this like new phase with iPhone Fold as a Fold user? Do I want to be using the Samsung Fold day to day because then I can compare as a Fold user, going from like an Android Fold to an iPhone Fold? Or do I stick with an iPhone so I can go with like approaching it from an iPhone user, thinking about like, well, do I want to go for a foldable version of an iPhone? And like, it's just interesting how you have to go through, or don't have to go through this, but it's something you think of as a content creator of like, how are you going to like, what angle are you going to tackle each video from? Like for a video review, are you going to review it as an iPhone user, as an Android user that switched, or as a foldable user? There's all sorts of kind of different angles you can do. And so that was like just on my thoughts of like, which way should I play this? Which I will lead on to now in the next one, because actually speaking of like, video strategy and what do we cover and what topics and what angle are we going at? Don't really have any more information to provide yet, but we have just hired one of 10 to work with us for 6 months on like content creation, strategy, video ideation, titles and thumbnails and packaging. We just had our kickoff call with them today, so I'm very, very excited to see where that goes. But it led on to, or it's like kicked off a whole discussion, because between the one of 10 consultancy or agency, whatever you want to call them, like strategy agency, we've also got the brand deals agency that works on our brand deals and paid collabs and those kind of things. And so it's an interesting like trying to figure out how best to play this, because what we hear all the time is your views aren't great or your views are volatile. And this is just like a standard thing that brands say a lot of the time. And then when your views are great, then you get good offers from dedicated brands for dedicated videos, which obviously don't do as well because they're dedicated videos. And so then your views take a bit of a dive, and then you go like, oh, your views are volatile. And then you work again and you build your views up again. And it's just like this never-ending circle. And so with this agency involved, I wanted to shoot a message to the brand deal agency that looks after us. We're trying to obviously figure out, because the agency needs to know what they're selling. So we have our videos planned through to the end of the year already, like the titles for those, or the working titles for those videos. So the agency knows what they can sell. Problem being is that if we are now bringing in this other agency to help me with ideation, those videos may well change because they're going to come up with potentially better ideas or better packaging. And so we don't want to commit sponsorships to a specific video idea when something else might come and change that. So I was trying to figure out how we can best do this. The best way I can see it happening is we're selling the slot rather than the video. So, a brand is buying, and it makes sense, if it's iPhone season, it's September, for example. September is like Apple month because that's when they release all the new iPhones. And so in September, let's just sell 4 or 5 Apple slots in our videos, because it's going to be probably Apple related, because that's just like the time of year. Problem being is that the agency struggles to do that because they need to know, like the brands are asking them, well, what video is it going to be? What's the working title for the video? The problem that then leads is that we have a couple of videos that we've already agreed where the brand has specifically said, no, we want to be that video. Like, I don't know, iPhone 14 versus iPhone 18. And it's like, well, what if we realize that actually a better packaging that video is Samsung versus iPhone? You know, at what point is the brand then dictating what the video is? And then, like, well, where does the issue lay with when the video doesn't perform? Like, we've come up with a better idea that we think will perform better, which we want to make, but the brand is adamant it has to be this video idea. Well, then they're then dictating what the video is about when all they're paying for is an ad slot in the middle of a video. Yes, of course, it still needs to be an applicable video and related or what have you. But I'd also argue that not all videos need to be related. You know, if you have a tech audience watching tech videos, it doesn't kind of matter which video they're in. You know, you would have thought that an iPhone user watching an iPhone accessories video, yes, of course, they're interested in iPhone accessories. But even like having non-related stuff in there, they're still going to be interested in it because they're still into their technology and products and things that they might not have known about had they not watched this video. And, oh, there's a new thing I've never heard of. Let's go and try that. So we haven't, I don't think we've sold it, but we're trying to find this middle ground because the agency obviously needs to know what they're selling, but we need to be able to give the agency this space in our schedule to be able to come up with these ideas so we can, obviously we can benefit from it. And one of the conversations I had with the agency was, well, when the views are like, I don't know, if minimum views are like 100 to 300,000 views per video, then yeah, sure, brands will let you do anything because views are great. But until then, we have to like lock down those video names and topics and titles beforehand because the brand needs to know what they're buying. It's like, you can't like, it feels like you can never win as a content creator. Like brands are always going like, we want views. And then you'd be like, okay, well, we're spending money to, with an agency and strategy to get us views. But that's no, we want this video. No, we don't want views. We want this video that you've said like, it's just, really frustrating. So we'll see how that goes. We have another call booked with them next week, which is our first, like, let's run through some ideas. So we're going to see how that goes. But yeah, 6 months, be interested to see where this kind of goes. I'm always a fan of just like trying stuff. As a tech creator, it's very difficult to differentiate yourself when it's just like everyone's making the same videos. We've all just posted like 1 week later with the Z Fold 8, and there's going to be a review of the iPhone 18 when that comes out, and everyone's just trying to find the different angles and the ways of like making themselves stand out. And so, like, I always think it's worth taking on external advice and opinions and ideas just as, otherwise we all make the same stuff. It's just rinse and repeat. YouTube gets very boring, and there we are. Speaking of which, my tasks app has just crashed, which had all my talking points, but I know which the next one was. The next thing on my list was brand feedback versus actual feedback. Or rather, like getting feedback from brands versus like their opinion, which is something we've been struggling with recently on some dedicated videos. So, and this is something that like should all be taken care of in the contract, and it's made us realize that contracts need to be tighter. Where we've got, obviously, there's a feedback window for like scripts and the final like video and everything, but we're getting an issue in some places where like the video is technically correct, the information is correct. Obviously, there's a couple of tweaks when the brand calls those out, and we need to make sure, factual corrections because we've got the specs wrong, or maybe the brightness wasn't quite there, or whatever it was, or maybe the brightness was from a different model, and all this kind of stuff. And then it comes to the changes where it's just like, I've put out my opinion, and they're saying, well, no, that's wrong. It's like, but it's my opinion, and like you can't change my opinion. And actually, there's FTC regulations that gives us protection that you can't make me not say something because it's my opinion. Is that kind of stuff that's out there. And so we're pushing back really, really heavily. And so it's frustrating at times when, especially with some brands, I feel like maybe it's like more of a language or translation barrier where we were going back and forth over the same thing for like a few days. And it's like, they're asking me to say this thing that I don't want to say because it's like just marketing waffle. But like, I understand what they're saying, but what I've already said in the video says the same thing in just like normal English. And they're like, no, I want you to say this instead. It's like, but I have said that just in different words. And there was this back and forth and just like basically both of us not budging. And it's that kind of stuff that could be really frustrating over time and, not make you want to work with the brand again. Because if they're going to be like that pedantic over specific wording, it's like, well, like don't work with us then. You're coming to us to buy a video on our channel. Like, we make the video we make. We're not like, you're not buying an ad. And for like TCL, for example, we made an ad, and they're posting it on their channel. And talked about this a few weeks ago. I flew to Shanghai, shot a commercial for them, and that's going to go on their channel. But for a brand to buy something that's going to go on my channel, then that's like, they got to play by my rules at that point to a significant extent, because they give us creative control. And if they get taking that creative control away, then, well, I'd rather just not work with you if you're going to be like that. So I think you have to stick to your guns a lot of the time. It's very, very easy. You draw that line in the sand, and it takes years to build up trust with an audience. And the one moment you cross that line, it kind of destroys all that trust. And it gets harder and harder, and it's getting harder and harder. The bigger the channel grows, the bigger the brand deals, the more money that's involved. And you just have to hold your ground, because it's just, it's not worth risking it. So that's been, again, another thing on my mind again this week. Question I got, because I found it an interesting one that no one's really asked before. So I was asked, can't remember who it was, a week, maybe 2 weeks ago or so, about like my experience of traveling alone, because I've never really thought about it. As when I was a lot younger, when you're traveling, you're always with like your parents or your partner or your family and your kids and everything. Like, traveling alone is it's very, very different. I don't really think anything of it nowadays. It's just a case of, a lot of the time. So we're traveling alone. Are you either going to, like trade shows, like IFA, sorry, or you're going CES is what I was trying to say. So you're either going to like big trade shows, in which case, you've booked your own hotels and the trade show, so you've got your ticket. So you just, you land, you get in your taxi or your train or whatever it is, and you go to where you're going. For press trips where it's been organized by a brand, like Samsung, for example, is a really great case of this, because with Samsung, you will fly or travel to where you go. They'll book the flights. They'll make sure that there's someone at the other end to collect you and take you to your hotel. And it's very like, you're very chaperoned. And there's always like a host there with them from the team that makes sure you've got everything you need and you're settled in your hotel. And like, they'll take you from the hotel to any events or the venues you're going to, or the keynote presentations or the hands-on sessions, whatever it is. And so they're very good. So you get like chaperoned around, but you're still like, a lot of the time you're still like, traveling to the airport by yourself. And I drive, or they get a train, get the flight by yourself. Feels very lonely, but you just know that you're like, I appreciate that time a lot, because I know that I'm going to then be spending a lot of time with a lot of people in that week or few days or whatever I'm doing an event for. Very very introverted a lot of the time, and I get exhausted, socially exhausted very, very quickly. Case in point, like Samsung Unpacked, there was a lot of big event, big people, so many creators, and you kind of got our phones. I then went back to my hotel for like 3 hours, just set up the phone, got it ready, moved my SIM over, shot an unboxing, didn't actually post the unboxing, but just like de-vented for a few hours, and then like, cool, there's like an evening thing, let's go out and like socialize again. Like, it's fun socializing, there's so many cool creators and you get to have so many good conversations, until you realize everyone's sightseeing in London. So they're still great. But yeah, just like the traveling alone experience is one of those things that you get used to after a while. And most of the time it's just, things like Uber, I just lean on Uber. I'm pretty happy I can land in any country and I can just call an Uber and get to my hotel. And you don't have to really worry much about how you're going to pay. It's just all done through the U app. The only one recently was China. That was like probably the most out there, because when I went to China with TCL to shoot the commercial, which was Shanghai, China is probably one of the furthest places I've been. They do not speak, lots of people don't speak English out there, and they use different apps. There's a whole different, like, WhatsApp won't work out there. You have to download like WeChat and WePay and other methods of paying, like Apple Pay doesn't work. So I had to do some research ahead of time to make sure I had all that covered. But again, I was met at the airport by the rep, and the rep took us to the hotel. So we were still like, it was still fine. But it just meant I had to think ahead about, like, I needed a VPN on my phone and on my laptop, because you can't then download it and sign up for it whilst you're there. You have to have it there ahead of time. So just things like that, just to be aware of before you get there. And then there's, talking about traveling, there was one press trip, which I cannot talk about yet, which was yesterday, where me and a bunch of creators went to Paris for 1 hour and then came home again. It was a hands-on with a device, which will all become apparent very soon. And it was just a weird experience. Again, talking about traveling alone. So I left my house at like 4 or 5 in the morning. I got a cab to the train station to the Eurostar. Then got the Eurostar to Paris. Paris, it was then like a 10-minute cab, again, Uber. 10-minute Uber from the Eurostar to the place we were going into. To then we had our hands on, and I was late because the agency arranged the train times, and then like the day before, I got a message saying like, "Oh, sorry, there weren't any seats, so we've actually had to book you on a later train." Like, cool, okay, I'm going to be late. And so I arrived. I was like, cool, how long have we got? You've got like an hour. Oh, and by the way, you can't go into the software on any of the devices. All you can do is like hold it and show it, and product shots. Like, okay, right. Cool. We could do like software demos, but you had to get like them to show us the software demos. So bit frustrating. But there was only like 7 or 8 of us there. So obviously it's very, again, like one of these like weird events where I'm like, why am I here? Like there's only 8 people here from the UK. Like why am I one of those 8 people? It's very, very privileged and very like odd to be one of those 8 people. But really cool. So there's a small group of us. We're just all kind of getting on, shooting our own shots. And then the session was ended and it's like, cool, now you leave. We'll see you another time. And so left, got another cab, went straight back to the train station, to the Eurostar, and then got the Eurostar to London, and then London, got another cab to home again. The cabs were very, very expensive. We were told we can expense our kind of travel, so we can expense the travel from house to Eurostar and Eurostar to press event, and then vice versa. So that reminds me, I need to claim for all of that stuff. But yeah, it's just really weird. It's literally 1 hour. It's the shortest I've been in Paris before. 1 hour for hands-on and then back home again. Wild. That was everything I had for this week. That's a nice and short one. 20 minutes long. Again, send us questions. Send me questions. DM me. Let me know what you want to chat about. I will happily chat about more stuff. I'll have some more stuff to talk about potentially next week after we've had all the strategy stuff, the 1 of 10s. There's loads of events coming up. So we've just like Samsung's happened. What else we got coming up? There's going to be August. August is always like Pixel month. September, always iPhone month. November, Black Friday. So it's like busy season. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that all turns out. But thank you so much for listening in or watching. Thank you for leaving reviews. I've seen a few reviews on Apple Podcasts or maybe Pocket Cast maybe. But yeah, if you haven't left a review, please do leave a review. Would really appreciate that. And I'll see you in the next one. Cheers. Bye-bye.